You are listening to the premiere episode of JPOOL's Gnerd Corner Film Review. Please go and support our friend Jacob Thomas and his Kickstarter project called Metal, A Black Dawn. Check out this indie comic book series, and please support.
This chaos. 1,000 people in an iron box. 18 years I've hated the train. 18 years I've waited for this moment.
Welcome, listeners, to a brand new episode and the premiere episode of Gnerd Corner's Film Review Show. This will actually be, there will be a new name for it soon. This is just a temporary name. But I am your host, JPOOL, and tonight I'm joined by my special guest host. Give it up for Jess Hurley.
Hey everybody, how's it going?
Hi there, Jess. And could you tell the listeners who you are and exactly what you do?
Well, actually, oddly enough, I work on a comic called Angel Wolf. I'm currently on the 4th issue. It's pretty much independent. I do have a couple other people to help me out with it, and a bunch of models involved, actually, which is kind of fortunate to work with. During my day job, I actually work in IT, which is a little bit different. And I also write a lot of movie reviews for Geekorama.net. And then also I write a lot of poetry, oddly enough. So kind of a mixed bag a little bit. So. But movie reviews are definitely one of my favorite things to do.
That's awesome. Yeah, movie reviews. I've been reviewing films for around 8 years, so not that long. Long for some of the listeners because they're youngins.
Right.
So tonight's film we are reviewing is the film, or the 2013 film, Snowpiercer. Why 2013? Because it just came to the States.
Right, yeah, and this is something that Jeremy and I have talked about before. This is one of those films that just because it's on the back burner, so to speak, and I think it is getting released in more theaters now, but it's kind of a limited release. It's one of those films you might miss, and later on down the line you're going to wind up regretting it. So if you want to get out to see this film, and Jeremy and I will go into an extensive reason why, a bunch of reasons why.
Exactly. Now, this film is directed by Bong Joon-ho. If you know who that director is, he directed things like The Host and also Mother, Memoirs of Murder, Barking Dogs Never Bite. A lot of people haven't seen a lot of his films because he is a South Korean director, and this is a South Korean film. But I think this film, in general, transcends even beyond, just being a South Korean film. Even though it does have points where it does need to be subtitled, otherwise we won't understand a word a couple of the characters are saying. It really transcends even, race, religion, all that, because there are different people from all sorts of race and religion on this train that's traveling on this global track.
Right. And basically, did you want to go on the premise, or do you want me to tell them the premise?
No, I'll let you go on the premise.
Okay, so basically the premise of this thing is, and this is kind of a big thing in Hollywood right now, is making a film about, current events and things that are going on. This one actually has to do with climate control and the fact that the Earth is getting warmer. So, in every great sci-fi movie, scientists decide they're going to try to fix the problem, and it ends up in massive disaster, which basically cools off the whole world until everything but this train freezes. So now you've got a bunch of people crammed onto this one train, which is basically the world at that point. It's pretty much all these people know. They live on the train, they eat on the train, they do everything on this train, and it's pretty jacked out how they have to go about their daily lives for most of them.
Exactly. And like you said, there are a lot of people on this train. There's about, 1,000 people on this train?
That sounds a good number, yeah.
Yeah, and it's always populated controlled, so they make sure there's not too many and not too few, just the right amount. And what I found interesting about this film is if you're watching this film, this is a very allegorical story about not just about climate change, but about how we view caste systems. And it's also a cultural thing, because you can talk to somebody in the United States about caste systems, and they'll kind of scratch their head and probably have to go on Wikipedia to look up what a caste is. But you can ask somebody in India, and they'll understand right off the bat what a caste system is. And we get to see it right here on a train full of 1,000 people, where we get to see the rich people, or the aristocrats, at the front of the train, while the poor are stuck at the tail end of the train, and how the difference between those two worlds are.
Right. This is something that I actually just thought of as you were saying that too. This whole story kind of has a little bit of a Wizard of Oz feel to it, because the driver or the conductor of the train is basically, you don't really see him until almost the very end of the film, and he is kind of a mysterious, but as you can tell as the film progresses, a very powerful figure on this train. He's basically almost worshipped. Wouldn't you say that, Jeremy?
Yeah, well, he is
pretty
worshipped.
much.
In fact, there's a religion pretty much about him. They believe that he is their savior, and so they literally will have. There's a scene with Alison Pill,
right.
where we see her in the classroom, and the children are reciting almost what do they consider that, propaganda, state propaganda, even though there's no state anymore.
Right. And yeah, they're kind of taught from day one. This is this is your place. This is how we do things. The person that invented this train is the greatest person ever. They go into the history of him and all this kinds of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah, the interesting thing I found about this film is the actors that they chose for the roles in here, and the main character in here is played by Chris Evans. He plays a very interesting character that. You normally see him as the hero in a lot of the films he's in. So he's usually typecast. But the way they take his character, because he starts off as this person to start off a new rebellion for the lower class, and then the way they take it towards near the end of the film is somewhere where you would never think they would take Chris Evans' character. In fact, I was even talking to Jess earlier about this, that this is my favorite. Well, I think this is Chris Evans' best role that he's ever done.
By a long shot, yeah. I'd have to agree with that for sure. I will also say, and you had mentioned Alison Pill earlier. If you guys don't know who she is, she's been in some other things, but my favorite role of hers was actually Scott Pilgrim, which oddly enough was another film that Chris Evans was also in. So it was kind of cool to see them two team up again. They never had any screen time together, but I will say this: Allison's role in this movie, she's the teacher basically on the train, is freaking insanely good, and you're not going to expect how things go down in that scene, because it's just absolutely nuts. I don't want to give too much away. But that's probably one of my most favorite and most shocking scenes in the entire movie. Would you agree with that, or is there something else aside from maybe Chris's dialogue at the very end, towards the end?
Yeah, I like the class scene. Even in my review, I said I felt part of it dragged a little along longer than I would want to. I didn't expect what was going to happen with the character. It was an interesting payoff.
Right.
But I thought for one of the scenes I found interesting and very memorable was when they entered the car full of pretty much I would consider the guards and henchmen. And all of a sudden they're attacking them and beating them. The rebels are beating them to death and everything. And then all of a sudden they stop and they're celebrating. And you're wondering why these guards are celebrating. And then you see a tunnel is coming up. That scene. Right.
Wow. Yeah. And then the counter punch on that scene was also intense. And even the owner of the train mentions at the very end that there were some things that Chris Evans and his group, that pulled off that even the owner of the train wasn't expecting, because this is kind of this whole thing with almost inciting and planting this whole seed of a rebellion against the front of the train is actually like part of their whole cleansing system. it's just the way they kind of keep population control at this point.
Yeah, which sort of kind of gives you a upset feeling in your stomach when you start to realize how this is all going down, that this was all planned, and you're like, wow, that's really dark. And then you start to realize this is not your typical artsy film. This is going to be something like towards the road type of film.
Right.
When people ask me what this film really is, just a short amount of words to use to describe it, I say, think of the road on a train.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I would have to agree.
If you ever read the book The Road, there are certain situations in The Road where they don't show it in here, but they kind of mention some things in here that you start to realize, wow, I can't believe what they had to do in that situation for the lower class. It's just shocking, and the person that's talking about it, well, some of the best dialogue I think that has come from that actor as well. And I really don't want to spoil that part, because that part you really have to experience it for yourself.
Right. And I think also, oddly enough, in this, Jeremy and I are kind of painting a pretty dark picture, and that would be accurate. The film is definitely not happy-go-lucky. But I will say there are some injections of humor in there from some pretty unlikely characters, and at unlikely times. Not drop down, and roll on the floor kind of laughter, but just different little things like nuances in the film that kind of give you that little push forward to the next big, huge, dramatic scene. And I really like the way that the director handled that part of the movie as well.
Exactly. I loved Octavia Spencer. When you start to realize that she's actually a badass. I've never seen her.
Oh, yeah.
I've never seen her go this violent before.
Right.
You were like, wait a minute, so she could have been this violent in The Help, but
Yeah. It definitely. I think for a lot of people, it actually stretched the boundaries of their acting abilities and what they would normally do in a movie. You kind of expect some people to just kind of play the same characters over and over and over. And that's, like I said, that going back to Alison Pill's character, even Tilda Swinton is, there are some performances in this thing that I swear if the Academy did anything, these people would be winning Academy Awards. They were so well done. I'm talking about superb performances.
Yeah.
Just amazing, great stuff.
When I said in my review, I said I'm afraid that because it's so early in the season and because this was a limited release type of film, that the award shows or the awards in general will probably overlook this film, which is kind of disappointing if they do, because there are incredible performances in here. I do think Chris Evans should get more attention for this role, and Tilda Swinton. Tilda Swinton, I saw a film that she was in recently. What was it? Now I forgot the name of it. Hold on a second. Only Lovers Left Alive. That was actually a really good film. It's dark. It's another dark film. And
isn't that a vampire film?
Yes, that has another film with Tilda Swinton. She's very beautiful in that film. In here, she is. I heard a story that she's actually a character that came from what you would consider steerage or the tail end of the train, because they really don't explain it that much in the film.
Right. Yeah, that is true. Yeah.
I had a friend that went to see this film when the director was actually presenting the film, and apparently I think this is out like in Texas or something like that. And my friend is a movie critic, and they went out. They were taken on a train to go out to a on location site to see the film, which was kind of interesting.
Very cool.
And apparently the people in the first class of the train got really nice food, and for some reason the people on the back of the train that were apparently not press or media got these little gel packets of things to eat on the way to go see the film.
No way, really?
Yeah, so
That's
I,
crazy.
now I'm kicking myself, going, I wish I could have gone to see a film like that where they were actually,
Kind of
trying
doing what's in the movie.
yeah, because then when you get to the see the film, you start to realize what they were trying to do through the whole time. But
That's crazy.
yeah,
That's crazy.
apparently the director, I believe, explained Tilda Swinton's character more in detail, where it really didn't get to know the character. And apparently, she came from the back and she worked her way to the front, and where the position she's in. Hence, why she doesn't mind really going in the back with all the the poor people.
Right, right. I mean, and I think there was a part for her and her character where she's kind of almost seeking, like, to try to be friends with them, and it's not. I mean, it's not like she wasn't going to eventually try to kill them or something like that. But she kind of understood how to talk to them. You know what I mean? And that was kind of odd to me. Whereas it doesn't seem like the two classes would have ever been together very much. Weren't they on this train for a number of years by the time?
17 or 18 years. Since
17 years. Yeah, right, yeah. Right.
Since 2014 all the way to
right. And some of the people were born. Yeah, some of these people were born on the train. So that part's kind of interesting to me too. And I could see where the director would say something like that it was kind of where she would have come from the back of the train, because that actually would make more sense than kind of the in explanation we're given in the film as to where she'd come from and what she was all about.
Yeah, I really like how they portrayed her character, because even though we know that Tilda Swinton can be a very beautiful woman and also very white and
right.
almost like, where's your pigment type of person.
Right.
You would think that she would be a vampire in the first place. So that
right.
was actually
I would think she
role.
would fit. Yeah, she'd fit that the film you were just talking about. I think a little bit better than this one. This one they really had to go, I think, all out to get her makeup to where it should needed to be, and she's
in her teeth and everything,
right,
and she doesn't look. Even though she walks in and she lives near the front of the train, she doesn't look like she should really be there, like she came from somewhere else. That's why I wish there was more of an explanation of her character in the film. Maybe there'll be more of an explanation in the making. I know Apple TV has to get people to order the film. They have special behind the scenes things that you can get when you order the film off of Apple TV. Which it was recently announced that Apple TV is the only one that's carrying the behind the scenes of Snowpiercer, and also like special pictures and art from the film. So
right on. Yeah, it does kind of make you wonder if you hadn't had a chance to see this film yet, or how long that window is going to be open to really get a chance to go and see this in the theaters. I know it's on demand and things like that, but I really did enjoy the theater experience for this one, because it does feel like a big budget, just psychological masterpiece. It really, I mean, this is probably, and I don't want to give too much away about Apes, but it's probably up in the top 2 films I've seen this year as far as just making your mind really stretch a little,
Yeah.
And kind of taking you to places that films these days really don't take you very often. I think the last film that I really saw that kind of took me to a place where, and a lot of people hated this movie, but it took me to a place where you really had to think about some things, was probably Doomsday Book. There's a section in that movie where there's robots involved, and they kind of talk about the meaning of life and directives and things like that. And it's very, very intense and very thought-provoking, and not even, oddly enough, the shooting style in that film was a lot like this one. It's also a foreign film, but since then, which that one came out in 2012, this Snowpiercer was probably the first one that's really, I think, unexpectedly challenged me on an intellectual level. Just got me thinking about things.
Exactly, and it's interesting because this is coming from a director, from a country who is in constant, they don't know if the North will ever, just come over and try to trample them. They're always in constant fear, it doesn't look like it, but of the North always coming down on them. And it's something that America really doesn't have to deal with. So seeing the way, you know, a lot of these South Korean directors are coming out, and there's a lot of good South Korean directors.
Right, right.
And seeing their vision on how they see the world and how they, you know, especially with this whole caste system they're introducing in this film, it's really interesting and very thought-provoking to see somebody else's thought process and vision on how he sees the world. You know, because we always get to see like what, you know, a lot of American directors and even European directors, I don't think understand that type of the world like the directors that live in that part of the world. So I
definitely agree with that.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to get this film on Blu-ray. It's already, it's already available, I think, but I'm going to wait till it comes out in full, you know, because I think it was released a little while back on Blu-ray, but I'm going to wait till the full release of the Blu-ray with all the special features and everything, because I really want to get to see more behind the scenes and why certain scenes were done, if there was any scenes that were taken away, because this film, like you said, this is a masterpiece, and I don't often say that about films.
Right. Yeah, I agree. I rarely say that either. I mean, typically, obviously your audience probably hasn't been exposed to me too much, but in my reviews, I generally take things from a fan's perspective. Like I'm kind of going in to just see how much enjoyment I can get out of this film. I don't really go in thinking like a critic, because that can almost make you too cynical. It can almost suck the fun out of a film if you go in thinking about it too much. But this film actually was something you could approach that way, because it was deeper than a popcorn film. It's one of those things that makes you walk out thinking, there's real life things going on in the world that are similar to things that happen on that train. There's just a lot of kind of what would you do in this situation in there too. You know, like if you were trapped on a train and you were in the situation they were in, how far would you go to try to survive and things like that. So it's really a challenging film.
Exactly. Another performance we really haven't talked about is the actor Song Kang-ho and Gong Hae-sung as two of the other characters in here. One is Song Kang-ho plays a guy who apparently is a drug addict. There's this thing that they, I guess they sniff, and it gives you a super high. And apparently it's also very flammable. But it's a drug that's apparently that they've become addicted to, at least the people on the train have become addicted to. It helps calm them down when they feel that life is shit, because they're living on a train for a long time. So, and we also get introduced to his daughter Yona, played by Gong Hae-sung, and there is a twist near the end that I would never have seen coming. I wouldn't even predicted it, but I really don't want to spoil it because it's that type of unpredictability. And also another storyline I thought was really well done was Jamie Bell. Yeah, if anybody knows who Jamie Bell is, he actually is on a show right now, an AMC show called Turn, and it's a really good show. Have you seen it?
No, I'll have to check that out though, because I really did like his performance in the movie. He's actually one of my favorite characters in this movie. And to go back to just a little bit, for Yana's part in the movie, she was some of the comic relief in the songs of that, but her performance is also really outstanding. Just this all the way around. I mean, there's really not. I mean, you can't. This is an old saying. You can't swing a dead cat without hitting some kind of fantastic performance in this movie. Even Octavia Spencer, who's been in a lot of stuff, everything from Spider-Man. She's been in a Spider-Man film. She's backed up in a bunch of other films. She's usually, kind of in the background. She was in The Help and a few other films like that. She actually gets a little bit more lines than usual in this film too. So there's just performances all the way around in this thing that are just great. But Jamie Bell, I really liked him in the movie. He's actually one of the very I don't want to say few because there are actually quite a few characters in this film that I liked. Even John Hurt's character was pretty outstanding. This movie's just, I can't say enough about it. It's great.
Exactly. And with the Jamie Bell character, there is a story in here of how he knows Chris Evans' character Curtis, and it will break your heart. It's just like it's one of those stories of those character meetings where your mouth drops when you find out how they know each other, and it's one of those powerful scenes and well dialogued personally that it will leave you like literally walking out of the theater going you feel like you're being punched in the gut type of situations.
Right.
At least that's how I felt.
I felt that same way. I definitely had that feeling where you're walking out just like, oh, that wasn't what I expected. One of those types of things.
Exactly. And there are also two other performances we haven't really, gone over. We've talked about all these other actors, but we haven't talked about John Hurt and Ed Harris. Now, Ed Harris will play a secretive character. We are not going to bring that up unless you decide to go on Wikipedia or IMDb, and that will spoil everything. But I loved the performances by John Hurt and Ed Harris in here. Just phenomenal performances. And I love John Hurt. I just saw him in one of the Doctor Who films. Right. And as the War Doctor. And he plays an incredible performance. And he was also in, let's see, what was that film now? That one with Tilda Swinton, Only Lovers Left Alive. He was also in that film as well.
Oh, really?
So, yeah.
Yeah, I'll have to check that out. I have read that was pretty good.
Yes. But no, I love John Hurt's character as Gilliam, and Ed Harris's character, question mark. Don't want to spoil it because that's one of the things, that's one of the performances you'll see in the film, and well, we'll let you just see it because it's not that long, but wow. I thought the dialogue was well done. The acting in that scene was incredible.
Yeah, that's the other thing too. There's a lot of stuff going on in this film, but it does not feel bogged down at all.
No.
It moves right along, which is really nice. That's another thing too that I think I like about films that can take a serious subject and just kind of like make you feel anyways, even if I don't think this thing's 2 hours, but even if it was 2 hours, you wouldn't mind because it's moving along. This one feels like it's just boom, 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 boom. There's not a whole lot of time in between either a huge action sequence or you find out somebody drops a bomb that's like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that just happened, sort of thing. This film just moves really at a nice pace. It's really well done that way too.
Exactly. And sometimes, I hate to say this, sometimes artsy films, they have a lull point in the middle or near the end, and this did not have a lull point at all. When you thought it was going to slow down, it just amps right back up. And
right.
It's just so well done, well directed, and I can't say really anything more about it. This is 126 minutes, and they did have a problem with that originally. They wanted to cut it down. And I think the director, if I remember correctly, he argued to the point of getting it to stay 126 minutes. So you are standing in the theater for over 2 hours, but personally, when you're watching it, time goes by like the train. It just keeps going.
It feels fast. Like you said, just like the train, it feels like this thing just moves right along. So yeah, it's pretty outstanding, that's for sure.
All right.
This is another thing I found out today too, and I don't read French, but apparently this movie is actually based on a 1982 French comic book. So at some point it may be thrown into one of those lists of best comic book adaptations at some point. I don't know what was changed or what wasn't changed, but that's kind of where they got the story from. So I don't know what else to say about it. It's pretty amazing film.
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. Now we're going to lead to final thoughts. Jess, I want to hear your final thoughts on this film, and then we'll go into the rating.
This is one of those films that I would call definitely a must-see. I do have a feeling this is also the kind of film that may not end up number one on my top 10 at the end of the year. And the reason why I say that is because the nature of these kind of films it's almost one of those films where I couldn't watch it all the time because it's extremely tense, extremely thought provoking. So that it's really it is entertainment. Don't get me wrong. There's an entertainment aspect for it, but the deepness to it probably would make me shy away from multiple viewings of it. It's probably not something like, I don't know, Sucker Punch, where I'd pull it out every month or something. I'm a huge Sucker Punch. But my final thoughts on the film are it's a gem, and I can't see how this won't either, one, be a cult hit, or two, be a critically acclaimed hit by the time that the final run's done and all the reviews come out and all that kind of stuff, because it's just simply outstanding.
Nice. Yeah, I really recommend this to anybody who is a huge, South Korean, like, martial arts type of action fan type of, they like that type of film. But also, like you said, and what we said before, a very thought-provoking film. I think Bong Joon-ho definitely will go down as one of the top South Korean directors out there. And I hope that he gets a lot more work, especially in the States, because then he'll have a larger budget to work with, and he'll be able to have the pick of the litter on what actors he wants to use. Because I think, even with the limited budget here, $39.2 million, he's put so much in this film that a lot of directors would just shy away from, either because of the subject matter or because they think that the audience is not smart enough to understand specific situations or subject matters.
Right.
And I feel that audiences, not all audiences, but there's quite a bit of a large percentage of audience that they've become smarter throughout the years, watching different films and everything. If you're that type of person who's a big film buff, and they started to realize where some films, what messages they're really trying to say. And sometimes it takes more than once. And like you said, this is not a multiple viewing type of film, but I always I recommend people who see this film to try to see it a second time, because there are a lot of things that you might miss. There's a lot of messages that the director is trying to get across, especially what we...
certainly at least twice.
This is not for... I tell people this is not a movie for the faint of heart. There's subject matters, and it's a very violent film, so this is not a film that you could take the family to, or at least not the youngins or the youths, because this is an R-rated film, and they use that R to the full advantage, especially in the middle train scene with the guards. And wow, that harkened back to scenes you watch like in The Raid, practically.
Right.
But no, I fully recommend this. I am definitely picking this up on Blu-ray when it comes out. And so, it's made in the box office $82.9 million, and I hope it makes more. It's made way over its budget. So I would like to hear your rating for the film before we end this podcast.
Okay. I have a little bit different rating system, as some of you, if you've read my reviews, might know. I know Jeremy probably knows this. But I give it a 7 out of 7. And the rating definition for that is a little bit lengthy, but here it is. This is my 7 out of 7 for Snowpiercer. Spectacular genius that makes other geniuses think they are uncreative. This is the movie that if you skip it, your life it'll lessen your lifespan and your skin will dry out. Yeah, I'm serious. These films end up on a scale of epicness that giving it a 7 out of 7 almost seems like a small number. It should be more like an 8 out of 7, sending it into the arena of mathematical impossibilities. That's how much I dug this film, and that is my rating.
Oh, nice. All right. Well, I gave it a 5 out of 5. Well, it's either stars, or I can give it like ratings out of 5 out of 5. Trains going throughout a snowy glaciery landscape, or never-ending track around the world.
Right.
That's something we really didn't get into, is what about the engine that never never stops. It's
Oh
like
yeah,
the ever-going engine, almost like the Energizer Bunny type of like train engine that never is really explained on how it works, but it explained how it gets its parts.
Right,
I'll just
yeah,
leave that
and
there.
that's-
I'll just leave that there.
Yeah, right. I was gonna say that's another really dynamic part of the film that I think people find extremely interesting and
Yeah,
fascinating.
definitely. So yeah, I gave it my highest rating. You gave it your highest rating. This is a definite buy when it comes out, but it's a definite go see now. If you have it, if you have it near you, if there's a theater near you that's playing it, I would recommend you look it up ASAP, because I don't know how long it's going to be in these theaters, because it is somewhat limited release still.
Yeah, I've been basically begging people to go see this thing. I think it's amazing, and it definitely would be something you'd want to get on DVD to at least have around, because it's, or Blu-ray. It's awesome.
Definitely. All right. Well, I would like to thank my special guest host, Jess Hurley, for being on the show tonight. And,
Thank you.
And I would also like to say to go to Geekorama or your website. What was your other website? Did you have?
No. Oh, well, I do, but it's okay. Let me get you the full name of it because it's long. Give me just a second here. Okay. The name of my review site is radioactivezombiewerewolves.blogspot.com. The other review site Jeremy mentioned was geekorama.net, and we both write for that site as well.
Nice. And go to my Facebook at JPOOL's Gnerd Corner on Facebook. And also this channel is just as Gnerd Corner. Also, I just switched my Twitter account to say Gnerd Corner as well, which is GNERD. So, thank you for listening, and we will have more film reviews later on in the future. Look for those. We'll also be doing retro film reviews. Talk about films that you can watch on Netflix or Amazon or anything else like that, but, you know, films that I think are, you know, pop culture films that definitely need to be reviewed. So, look for those in the future. And thank you for listening.
Thank you, guys.
Good night, everybody.
I'm not a leader.
You're ready.